So obviously that was a major result for me, catching that Burghfield common, and it was strange in a way because it happened, I wouldn't say too early, but I hadn't finished in my mind with the lake. There was areas I still wanted to fish, you know, swims I wanted to have a go at, corners I wanted, there was stuff I wanted to do. It's such a beautiful lake, such a big lake. I felt like I'd only scratched the surface, but when you have a fish like that, you don't want to risk a recapture. I know it sounds ridiculous, the fish hasn't been out since I caught it, and that was 3 years ago. But you never know, do you, when your baits are in the water and you've got mates fishing the lake as well. So I tried to sort of go to other places, and I kept getting drawn back, and I did have some other fish out of there. There was one in particular that I really wanted. It was sort of my second one on the hit list, if you like, which was a big random linear, sort of a mid-40. And I came back in September and I had a very, very big hit of fish. I think I had 13 fish in 3 nights, fishing again over a big beds of hybrid. And that fish was one of them, mid-40, random scaled linear, gorgeous looking fish. And when I had that, I thought, really, you know, I've got to go, I've got to move on. I've caught what I came here to do. I've achieved my targets. And it really is, you know, sort of time to find another water. I was on a waiting list for a winter ticket for a lake over in Peterborough area called Northy Park. And Northy Park's sort of the polar opposite, if you like, of Burghfield. It's a small lake, I don't know how big, let's say 8 acres or something like that, and it's very, very shallow, and I mean shallow. You know, most of it's 2.5 foot. A deep spot on Northy would be 5 foot. Which is a bit of a problem with the swans and the bird life. But for the winter, I actually quite like shallow waters. I think they respond quicker to changes in temperature. I didn't know an awful lot about it. I knew it had one very big common in there and some decent mirrors, but I didn't know an awful lot about the stock. I'd only been told about it a few months earlier by Daryl Peck, actually. So I started fishing there, I think it was the end of October, something like that, beginning of November, can't really remember. Last week in October, I believe, the ticket started. I started doing a few trips up there. The fish were fairly easy to find, to be honest, being so shallow and being that I love climbing trees. I spent a lot of time up in the air. Used to see them drifting in and out of different reed beds. It's one of them nice little pits that's got big banks of reeds, like Norfolk reed all the way around it, quite thick. So the fish get in and out of them, especially in the winter. They love the cover of reed beds. So I sort of chased them around for a few weeks. I had one on my second trip, I think it was, a mid-30, and then a couple of weeks later I had another mid-30. And there was also a boat on there that you could use. It became apparent to me really quickly that the fish were scared witless of this boat. If you went out in the boat, they would just spook and they wouldn't return to that area. So it wasn't like you could go around the lake, find them, disturb them, put your baits in and wait for them to come back. If you disturbed them from A, they'd go to B, and if you disturbed them from B, they'd go to C. And in the end, they were, I thought, a bit paranoid, you know, if you used the boat too much. But in the earlier first few weeks, when I was looking around from the boat before I sort of realised this, I used to find them quite often in one little spot, and I mean a little spot. It was in front of a very popular swim. There's a main swim, and on the side's a little tiny spit. And just off of this spit, so rather than fishing the main swim, you could fish the little spit. Probably 2 to 3 rod lengths out was one area. It was probably 6 inches deeper than everything around it. It was silty. Everywhere had quite a bit of weed, but this was almost like a little silty depression in the weed. And we're talking 3 or 4 foot circle. And quite often when I came into that area, there'd be 2 or 3 of them sat there, just not doing anything, not feeding, just sat in this spot. And this happened sort of, I don't know, say half a dozen times, enough to make me think there's something about that spot they like. Anyway, as the weather started to turn, started to get a bit cooler and that, and I managed to put a little bit of bait in out of swan depth. I remembered this spot and went down there, fired, I don't know, 30 or 40 hybrids on top of it, and waited till the swan came along. And I saw him upend, because you could see him, and then I see his feet paddling like that on the top, and then he came up and he tried again, and then he swam off, and I thought, oh, it's just out of his depth. That's a perfect spot. So I baited it a couple of times, and on sort of the 3rd visit, I thought I'll give it a go in there. So I popped in there, got on this spit, I'd already marked it up. Like I say, it was literally just a tiny little flick in front. Put one on that spot, bit of bait around it, found a couple of spots for the other 2 rods. And this was the last day of November. Done me 24 hours in there, and I'm not much of a stayer. If I don't catch in 24 hours, I generally move. But I decided on this day what I was going to do. It's actually my birthday when I woke up. It was the 1st of December. It's my birthday, and I thought, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go out in the boat and I'm going to have a look round quietly, go around the rest of the lake and just have a little peek about without making any disturbance, just to see what's what. There's nobody else on the lake. So I've gone out and I've gone around a few areas and not found anything. And while I'm out in the boat, I thought, every other time I've been out in the boat, I've seen them where I was actually fishing. I thought, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take the boat back to where it belongs and not go anywhere near my end of the lake. I'm going to go back and I'm going to give it another night, which, like I say, is rare for me to do 2 consecutive nights if I haven't caught in the same spot. So I got myself back in there. Like I say, it's my birthday, so I got my rods out and thought I'd have myself a bit of grub and a few beers. Might have even been a bottle of wine, I can't remember. But I sat there, you know, thinking to myself, wouldn't it be nice to catch myself a birthday fish? I've never fished on my birthday before, I don't think, in my life. I don't know why I was that particular day. It's because it was midweek. I think it was a Wednesday, and there was nothing, you know, what do you do on a Wednesday on your birthday when you've had as many birthdays as I have? So there I was, sat back on my own, glass of red wine, curry or whatever, just watching the water. I hadn't really seen any signs, maybe the odd little bit of bubbling here and there. Sun went down, just getting dark, and I thought I'm sort of running out of time really for this birthday fish. 9 o'clock that evening, I just got into bed. It was chilly by then, proper cold. Just got into bed, made myself comfy under the bag, and I had just a little beep beep on the rod that was on this spot. Literally a couple of beeps and it just tightened up. I laid in bed and I looked at it, I thought, it's nothing, you know, something's brushed the line. And then there was beep, one more beep. Get out and have a look at that. And I went out and I sat next to the rod and I looked at the bobbin up close, and it was literally, it was like it was breathing. It was just trembling, just going up and down, up and down. Not enough even to set the alarm off. A few millimetres up and down. So I just picked up the rod, cut the spool and held it. Sure enough, I could just still feel it, just moving so slightly. I tightened the clutch and wound down, and literally I bent the rod, which bent right over. There was a big bulge in the water over the spot. Turned, pulled, and the bulge came straight towards me. I held the net out and it went straight in. It was that quick. Seconds. Didn't do anything. Didn't flap its tail, didn't kick, didn't shake its head. Just about 3 pumps straight into the net, which apparently is what the big common in there is renowned for. It never fights. So I was thinking in my head, I possibly know what this might be. So I flicked the head torch off, looked in the net, sure enough, it was like looking at the Burghfield common again. There was this massive common in there, an absolute minter. Big, long, perfect in every way. Got him out on the mat, sacked him up, again made a couple of phone calls. Lewis came over, he was just literally at a lake up the road. In fact, he was close to that. He said, I phoned him and he said he was just about to drive past the gates, and he had all his camera equipment with him. So he swung in and we weighed it in 51.12, I think it was, 51 something. Bear in mind, I just had the Burghfield common at 55 pound, 2 50-pound commons in 1 year. It was just unbelievable, and on my birthday as well. I mean, what a great birthday present. So like I say, Lewis had all the equipment, we had the video stuff, we had video lights, we didn't see the need to get anybody else involved. Made a nice little place to photograph it, popped it up, did all the do. Photos come out fantastic, video come out fantastic. Even got video sliding it back, and just a perfect birthday evening. And what an end to a year. You know, 2 50-pound commons in 1 year. I'd have to go a long way to top that. So there we go. I mean, 7 50s that makes it I've had from the UK, and every single one of them I've had on mainline bait. And that's the beauty of it for me. It's that confidence thing. Like I say, it's 25 years I've been using bait from the same company. Every time I go, I know I can put total faith in bait. I can take that away from the worries, you know, oh, is it the right rig, is it the right spot, are the fish here, there. I don't have to worry about bait. I know that my bait will work. I also know that if I'm in a situation like I was at Burghfield, for example, Sonning back in the day, where I've got a lot of fish there that I know are willing to eat a lot of bait. The good thing about the mainline is it's so digestible. I know that I can keep putting it in, they'll keep coming back, and they can eat a good quantity of bait. I can hold those fish in an area just by feeding more and more bait, and that's gonna, you know, that's worked really well for me in the past, in the right situation. It's not always that way. Other lakes I've fished over very little bait. I sort of weigh it up as I go along. So obviously mainline bait's been a major part of my journey, and really it's given me the confidence to take on some of the waters I do fish, which I think you agree, some of them are very, very hard waters indeed. But I've got ultimate faith in my bait, and that does help an awful lot. And we're always working on new things. At the moment we're working on new baits, and who knows, in the future maybe one of the new baits might account for my next 50 pounder. I certainly hope so. And that's it, mission complete.